Okay, and we are back. So this section will be solely focused on Google Gemini tools, and that's because Google Gemini has provided multiple different integrations into their systems. The majority of them are free. We will cover some of the paid ones. And if you are at the University of Michigan, it's likely that some of these tools have already been provided to you. Some of these might be blocked, at least when it comes to the AI Studio integrations. So one of these slides again. This is a spotlight for Google Gemini. I think they have the most expansive library out of all the AI providers. They're really just focused on an ecosystem. And as they had multiple different AI, well, not AI products, but multiple different intelligent systems, AI has been integrated into majority of these. You'll actually find that some products might overlap, but I think they're just trying to do it all at this point. Some of the notable things that they have is they have multimodality by default. Image 4 is one of the models they have that makes extremely realistic videos. Before Sora 2 came out 2 weeks ago, it was the most realistic. You have VO3, that's advanced video generation. Nano Banana is completely free, and you can use it for things like photo editing. There's also different fields they're going into, such as robotics, physics, and multiple other things. They are building a framework named Opus that is soon to come out, and Opus will have the ability to do drag and drop with agents. However, it might be a bit expensive from what I've heard. Do we have a question on the chat? No. Okay. So let's go over the Gemini creative and visual tools first. These will be Nano Banana, Canvas. We'll lightly touch on Firebase Studio. We'll maybe look at VO. Opal is the product that is soon to come out, and that's for creating agents on a drag and drop system. I had access to it last week and they removed it from me, so I think it's going to come out maybe next week. So let's go ahead and share. Change. There we go. Okay. Let me sign in really quickly. Okay. So this is Gemini, the Gemini interface. Most people should have access to it. It should also look very familiar. It's very similar in how GPT works. First of all, custom GPTs are named gems this time. You can create them, you can explore them. You have access to multiple models. So you have access to Flash and Pro. So Flash, very fast, that throughput. In case you just need quick responses, iterative work, things like that. If you're dealing with math or code, then you will need to switch over to the 2.5 Pro. You should have access to it, although it might be limited or throttled at times. For majority of tasks, you can stick to Flash. The great thing about Gemini is that they provide more free resources right now than anyone else. There's also different tools that you can explore. So the first one I would say is, it's let's go ahead and click on nano banana. So that banana symbol, it just means that that banana model is there. And I want to show, so click on something very common is that you get photo bombers whenever you go out and take pictures, right? So let's go ahead and look for a let's look for some photo bombers. Maybe this one, right? So we'll go ahead and copy the image. And we'll say, hey, can you see this image? And yep, it's able to recognize exactly what's going on. That's the multimodality built into it. It gives you a pretty good description of it. So, and it identifies the person on the left-hand side of the image who appears jumping and caught in midair. Okay. So we'll ask kindly, could you remove that person jumping in midair? And here's the image. So it's been edited to remove that person. If you use Photoshop before, you know this would have taken quite a bit of time. So it's pretty neat that although it's not perfect, that you are able to do this with a simple prompt. Yeah, it took maybe 30 seconds, but it still beats maybe 30 minutes on Photoshop. Yep, and then you could forward it. Um, you could also do other creative things, like you could add backgrounds, you could change sceneries, you could remove almost everyone. Actually, let's go ahead and see if you could remove everyone but the guy in the white shirt. Another important thing is that you weren't able to do this before because generative AI models didn't have persistence. Now you have image persistence, which now we could see here's the guy by himself. It actually filled in his arms using AI. It looks pretty real. I almost feel like this image is a lot clearer than the other one. Um, could you dress him like a cowboy? And just to have a little bit of fun with it, let's change his outfit. There we go. And his face wasn't distorted. Paul, I believe you had a use case for this not so long ago, right? Yeah. So this does not only work with pictures, but if you generate your own art or images using AI, you could take that character and create multiple different iterations of it. You can change it to however you want. This is not unique to Gemini. However, Gemini is free right now. You can do this with the Sora models with ChatGPT, but that's a $200 license a month. We had a question. Yeah, so actually that was the first thing. I uploaded this and it was like, yes, I can see the image group. So honestly, the reason why I did this was just to make sure you saw the guy that was obviously jumping, right? And it was able to identify him midair. Yeah. Yeah. So this, yeah, this can give you really good descriptions, probably better than most people could provide you these descriptions. Uh, you would just need to like, do one by one. And this is where creating a system or an agent workflows, things like that comes into play because you could then provide it maybe a directory to go through and it would just be able to go through this continuously until it's done. Yeah. Say Cowboys go to the beach. You should a ranch. We'll see how it interprets ranch if it's going to be dressing.
Oh, right.
Maybe like a farm. Okay, to my amazement, it actually didn't put him in a ranch bottle or something. Um, but I mean that still looks pretty realistic. Especially when you take pictures with your phone, they don't have as much depth, but if you've ever taken a picture with a DSLR camera, it almost looks AI generated at times. Like kind of like this. Anyways, that's Nano Banana. It's free to use, and you could use it for maybe instead of editing your pictures, something productive like accessibility, like you mentioned. But
A PDHP workshop yesterday.
oh, really? Okay. Well, yeah, there's multiple different tools we could use.
But AI wasn't part of it.
Okay.
I can forward this.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, that's Nano Banana. Let's go ahead and remove it. We'll go with a new chat. So the next tool that we want to use is, I would say, Canvas. It's pretty good for mocking up. It's another creative tool. So I want to create a, oh, whoa, that looks awful. So create a quick version of Flappy Bird that I play right now. And I'm not being very descriptive. I'm being very vague. Don't be like me. Be like me in the first section where I'm very descriptive on what I want done. This is just to show that even if your prompts aren't so good, you could still come up with something great.
Bang so many times.
Yeah, it's seen so many times. So so it kind of killed me pretty quickly. And this is running completely on the browser. I used to be pretty good at this game, so let's just stop there. So yeah, it's able to mock something up like that very quickly. You could build apps, menus, games. You could also tell it something like, could you edit it so the pipes are blue? So it could iteratively do quick changes. Should be able to. Can go beyond this. You could do physics engines. You can do 3D modeling with it. It really depends on how in depth or your current workflow is. This is just a very quick demo and telling you that this does exist. So you have a creative idea and you want to test out the concept, give it a go. I think it's still editing. Okay, here we go. Okay, and we see the changes, right? So if you have an idea, please. So the next thing is Firebase Studio. Console. Oh, it's making me sign up. Great, so I don't want to go into signing in because I have some projects at the university that maybe I can't show. But Firebase Studio provides you, just like we saw right now, quick demos, but more in depth. So it does overlap with console, but this can start to generate applications, and in a very simple manner, you could mock up apps, you could create services, all using simple prompts, just vibe coding it. There's also a dashboard, and you can manage the development environment for this. So you could share with other people, you could add, you might reach some credits because Firebase Studio does become paid at one point. But just something to keep in mind. It's the next step from Canvas. The other things that we wanted to talk about was VEO and Opal, but Opal was removed and VO is on another application that we'll go over. And we're going to talk about the productivity aspect, not just having fun with images. So first of all, I'm not sure if anyone has noticed, but if you Google something, there's AI mode. How AI mode works is that it prioritizes searching correct information instead of generating information. So it will go through, it will synthesize, and it'll provide you not only with the response, but also resources on that response. So we ask something like, something simple like this. Provide me a recipe for sourdough bread.
Seeds.
Yep, you're right. I misspelled it. So let's go back to AI mode. Well, let's think of something better than just sourdough bread. Does anyone have a suggestion?
Gumbo.
Huh?
Gumbo.
What was that?
Gumbo.
Gumbo?
UMBO.
Like New Orleans gumbo. What is that?
Southern dish from New Orleans. You should definitely try it out.
You should try it out.
Okay, let's say how to make gumbo.
Say that.
Okay. And I'm not familiar with gumbo. Does this look correct to you?
Yeah.
Okay. And as you can see over here, it provides you the resources where it got this from, which I think it's pretty cool. Before we would question, well, why is it providing me this? Now we have an answer on the why. And I think it's the next step for search engines, right? Now, there's also, if we go back to there's also other things that you could do, like guided learning. So guided learning is a pre-prompt almost that allows you to sit there as someone who is looking to learn. It will shift its speech pattern to you. It'll break things down step by step. And it's ready for follow-up questions and reasonings rather than it will keep searching. So if we say something like, could you teach me about open source LLMs and how to run them on my Mac. You'll see that the usual verbosity and verbiage is changed slightly. And it keeps things concise, it starts to bullet point them. It's not as abrasive or commanding as some other responses might be. You could use this for multiple different things. And I think it's a little better than ChatGPT if you don't go on those custom instructions. Now, a very popular one is deep research. And what deep research does is it goes on the web, as we saw with AI mode, but instead it continues to do research on topics, and it will go everywhere from academic papers all the way down to Reddit threads on whatever you're looking for. So let's go ahead and do some deep research. Does anyone have any suggestions?
When did sugar become a widely traded commodity?
Okay.
Google always asks you to press twice.
Yeah.
Want you to think about it if you really want to submit it.
Search. You'll see this tab that opens the showing thinking. It's debatable how accurate this is. But what we do know is that it's at least trying to make what it's doing interpretable to us. As we could see, it starts to map out a timeline, focus on the core answer. And then it'll provide the research websites. It's still not done, by the way. This is just what's it currently collecting. And once it's done, then it'll provide us with usually a research report. Depending on how you frame it, it could be extremely expensive. It might use citations or MLA format. If you just do a simple question like me, it might not provide these things.
How would this compare just to a regular, non-deep research query? Like if you'd punch the same thing into one of your laptop models.
Yeah, so deep research, it really comes down to making the best use case for it. I've seen that some people have been able to figure out medical diagnoses that doctors, like for decades, were not able to come to. But that's just because a person really wrote a good prompt to be able to do the research, and it came to the correct conclusion once that person was tested for that issue. It came out, yeah, that is true. And it's amazing that through so many years, medical experts were not able to come to that conclusion. Now, a prompt like the one we wrote is probably not the best. And we don't want to write the best prompt, because if we did, we could be here for 2-3 hours. Deep research really is deep research. It's accelerated research, but it will still take quite a bit of time. So if you have a task that you're struggling with, or you want to write a roadmap on a complex system or architecture, then you let this run and you walk away and don't expect it to be back. And here it is. So now we have a full document, or almost like a blog post, and interesting titles. The tipping point. I mean, if you're a creative writer, you see this and you're like, oh wow. And you can always expand. It'll provide you with the resources. You'll see these almost after every paragraph. You could always specify on what ways or how you want things cited, and it will make those changes for you. And it is quite long. It is literally a blog post that it does for you. And at the end, they'll provide you again with all the resources used. This can save you time if you're trying to learn something new, or trying to delve deep into a creative idea that you might have to see what's out there. Gemini provides deep research. OpenAI also provides it. And Claude, I think, has a version of it. But in my experience, Gemini has been the best when it comes to creating the deep research. And it can go on, like I said, for hours. I had a task that I left running for roughly 4 hours, almost 5. Came back and it was still going. Versus like Anthropic might only search for 30 minutes for the same task, and it wasn't as, I would say, expansive. Any questions? No. Okay, so the next thing is, okay. Yeah.
Create a map for a workflow or something. At what point would you use that for defining a workflow versus Canvas? So like if you had an idea for coding something, like what level of complexity would you choose deep research over Canvas?
So Canvas, it's iterative. Deep research, I would say I would use it as a basis. So before I start any action, I like to think about it deeply, so I don't traverse every possible scenario, not lose time. So deep research will cut that initial time. Then I might go into like iterative work with something like Canvas, or perhaps something like Codex, right, for development. It's really to cut down that initial search. I'm not sure how you work, but usually when I come up with an idea, I like to make sure that it doesn't already exist, or if there's resources that I can use to be able to build this thing, then I'll take all that knowledge and start my own project or whatever it might be that I'm working on.
Can you ask it, can you prompt it to like just look in peer-reviewed literature or give it a list of like 100 journals that it has to restrict its?
Yep. Yeah, so you can completely restrict this to however you want. Again, using the CRISP framework that we went over in the beginning. Now, one thing is that you doing this will make it longer, right, to process. So you might be there for, say, an hour or a couple hours. This was just a very quick demo, but you could really use it for just about anything, as long as you follow those prompts.
One thing is the paywall. You might not be able to find the paywall.
Yeah.
So probably you still have to fit it, the information you have.
Right.
PDF
Yeah.
context.
Gonna give it like 100, I saw you give like 100 PDFs or something.
Yeah, you could give it 100 PDFs, or you could provide it links if they're public. But like he's saying, if something is behind a paywall or sign-in, authentication, or CAPTCHA, you can't use this. There's AI assistants that can do that, but this is just for public data available online. Almost like if you were doing search with no budget, right? So one neat thing is that you could also have workspace integrations. So you could say something like, how does my email look today? It might expose me, so bear with me. I have 100 missed emails. So if you are using this under your image email, it'll have access to multiple things like Drive and Gmail. You can allow it to use documents. You can also allow it to do analysis on something like Google Sheets. And it can write formulas for you. You could format them pretty much. You have freedom to do as you wish. We won't go into data analysis with Gemini today, but if that's something that you do often, then I do recommend it. Okay, so it looks like I have some missed emails. So, yep, it has access to my email, and I could always rely on this to tell me what should I be paying attention to. So, like my boss telling me that I have something due. A research volunteer opportunity with someone that wants to, work on some of the projects, other projects that I'm working on, apologizing, some PHI processing, things like that. So it's able to go into my email, have context of everything. Sometimes if I'm out for like a day or so, I'll say what are the most important things in my email right now, because I might have a couple of pages to scroll through. So something else to use.
How is it gonna determine? Like what?
That's very interesting. I don't exactly know how it determines, but for some reason it's able to. I guess what it does is it probably filters out all the community and exposés and things like that, and direct things that mention me by name. And a given task, it pushes them up. That's my assumption. I don't have the backend to this to verify it, but I would at least presume it's that. And then it'll say events and announcements, bottom, things like that. Has sources. I won't click on sources because then it'll take me to my email, and it might be quite messy. But just to show you that it does have access to everything on your Gmail if you allow it. And the allowing is down here on apps, and you just turn it on. If you're at the University of Michigan, this is compliant, so they're not supposed to store any of your data and trade on it. That's one of the upsides of, this specific version of the license. So they do have a BAA. Yes, question.
Well, it's more of a comment, and I don't know if you already mentioned it, I just missed it, but similar to what you were saying with Gemini, typically if I'm using my personal account and using Gemini, like I can delete those recent ones. If you're using your U of M one, I don't think you can delete it.
Yeah, they end up staying here.
So just a FYI.
So that is a slight difference, and thank you for bringing it up. So that's I would say the main functionalities of just the simple Gemini interface. Now there's also Google AI Studio. And if you try to use it under a image email, it'll actually be blocked by IT. That's because they don't have the agreement for this. But I could always change email. Lets me. So we'll sign into this one. Here. Still signing in. Just Control Shift then. Okay. And this is Google AI Studio. It's a more advanced version of. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. And this is Google AI Studio. It's a more advanced version of what we were just on, and it provides different tools. So let me go ahead and sign in. Okay, and here you have access to even more models, and you actually see that we have a temperature gauge. So this is a step up of the previous version. However, you will be blocked with your UImage email. I would say the most interesting use case for this is this streaming functionality. Has anyone seen this before? Okay. So let's go ahead and as you can see, I'm sharing my screen. So I stop recording. Okay. Hey Google, can you see my screen? Could you point me over to the any parameters that I can change on the model? Oh, looks like I didn't have it on.
Okay.
So usually I have two screens. So let me go ahead and move this over. For my entire screen. Okay. Hey, are you able to see my screen? Yes or no?
Yes, I can see your screen. It looks like you're in the Google AI Studio.
Okay, do you know where I could change the temperature on the models.
I don't see the temperature setting right now. It might be under the advanced options. Could you try expanding the run settings section?
So as you can see, it can view your screen. It's a bit creepy. And right now I'm not showing the best case for it, but it doesn't only have access or have the capability to view the settings here. You could go to something like
Okay, I see.
you could go to a different page and begin to analyze whatever might be on your screen. If you are having trouble with documents, with filling out forms, with finding specific information, it can actually interpret graphs for you. It can point you towards them. It's not able to write on your screen, which I think would be great if it just like circled things, right? But it is able to view everything on your screen and do a full scan on what's going on. Let me go ahead and
That's a good point about being able to interpret graphs and help with documents. Thanks for showing me that.
so it's able to do a lot of things. Fortunately, I think right now, since let me minimize all the pages so we can get a working demo of this. Okay, can you see my laptop? Desktop?
Yes, I can see your laptop.
Okay, how many screenshots do I have on my desktop?
There are 10 screenshots on your desktop.
Okay, so you could ask it to find things for you. You could, sometimes I use it while I'm coding. If I can't find the specific thing that I'm looking for, I'll just share my screen. I'm screaming the whole time. Interfaces often change, right? So what this does is that it's like a second pair of eyes when you're going through training or you're going through a new interface. It's also recorded, right? So if you want to record steps on how to do something, you could download these videos. It's powerful, but it's very creepy, right? Because it always has an eye on you. You can stop sharing by clicking this. But it's something to be aware of. I think the university blocks it off for a reason, right? But if you want to use it on your own computer under your own account, it is free for the most part. You can reach a limit. However, that limit is super high. It can be super helpful, but how much do you trust it? Right? Would you be okay with something like your bank statements being streamed? You know, all these things are things to consider. So, oh, we're still sharing that. So let's go ahead and stop sharing that tool. So streaming, I think it's the main thing for Google AI Studio. Now keep in mind that you can combine this with other things like the things we were doing, prompting, doing research, with generating images. It can help you even spot Waldo if you wanted to, right? And maybe like circle Waldo with Nano Banana. You can do plenty of things. But it starts to get a little bit invasive. So just keep this in mind. Any questions? No? Okay. In Google AI Studio, you also have access to different models. So I think where is it? So it should be somewhere here, but you do have access to the Pro models. It's not just only the Flash. but you have extended thinking. You can do more of the tuning. Any questions on this at all? Yeah.
Like watch in real time as you're watching a video and do something like that?
Yeah, so I've used it for note taking before. So like sometimes we have those like huge NVIDIA conferences. As you might know, you need to be very active, especially during workshops. So I'll like stream it and it'll take notes while I'm doing the work. So it's almost like two of you. You could use it for multiple different things. Like I've said before, I feel like creativity is one of the barriers. Also, in this case, your privacy, right? But you can use it for multiple things. Whenever I'm developing something that does not have private information, I will use this and I'll stream it and I'll work with Claude to be able to refactor my code, update, find any issues. Sometimes you can actually set it up so it intervenes with your work. So it'll start to think like, hey, you might have missed this git push, or there's a line error here. You should go back and correct that. But how comfortable you are with it, just be aware.
Then I'm thinking about the same thing, like if you have some data that's been de-identified, but like say you do weekly or monthly data transformations, again, could you use something like Google AI Studio to walk through that process of like, here's what I do each week. Now, can you do this, but with this other file?
So Google AI Studio will be able to tell you what to do, but it's not able to do it for you. So the actions instead are going to be needed to be made by you. Currently, you need to use Python or JavaScript to create these applications to do things for you. But I guess like in a very meta way, you could have a system doing things, and then you could have Google AI Studio watching the AI model do things and document it. So it does everything correctly. And if not, you could reference back to the video or anything they might have catched. But I think we're probably just, talking, like way beyond this workshop.
It does seem like in the future, depending on, again, privacy, making sure you're not doing that, it might be nice for like onboarding new members for organizations and stuff like that, if you can kind of have a
Yeah.
good documenting processes or.
Yeah, I think onboarding is a huge one, right? And being able to tell you where things are, take you through different pages if you can't find a setting, or how to reach out to a person. Doing something like this will speed up your work. Even though I'm a computer person and I'm on one like 14, 16 hours a day, sometimes I can't find a setting where I can't read, right? So then it'll point me to where on the web page is it. It'll say like you're missing it, it's on your top left, or it's right under this setting. You might want to look into, this other website and things like that. It's a second pair of eyes. That's where I think the meta like glasses might come in handy, but for the real world. Because if you had a model that is able to see everything you're doing, might be able to perhaps see a car or someone on the street while you're driving and warn you ahead of time without having to, have a vehicle that is geared for that. Or maybe if you're walking, make sure you're not stepping on something. If you're looking at a computer, maybe start to circle those things that you're missing. That would be nice. But again, it goes back to privacy and evasiveness.
I think you showed this, but to do a full screen share, right?
Mhm.
You can only share, excuse me, certain windows.
Yeah.
So if you like, I don't know, I'm just trying to think through how I could limit
Yeah, the
accidental like private leaks before they happen effectively.
yeah, so yeah, you can share only those windows and you could restrict it to that. It's a little, I think the system is interfering with sharing only one thing here, but usually if you have a second monitor, you could share that only a second monitor.
Smart. Yeah, that's a good way to.
Haven't watched that. But, you know, it's super useful. How much do you want to use it or share? Anyways, this is a super deep topic. I wanted to share it because it's my favorite tool, but it's also like the most controversial.
Having a nosy secretary.
Yeah, exactly. This is probably my second favorite tool. It's Google Notebook LM. So what this is, it's basically a repository, almost like a notebook you can create about different things or topics. You could add things from your Google Workspace to reference. You could add YouTube links. You could add website links. You could paste text. You could upload sources. Or if you want to do a search, then you could also click on Discover. And say that, oh, by the way, you can also search your own Google Drive for these resources and anything relevant. Something to point out. But just for this, we'll search the web so you could see how it works. And hopefully we have time we can get to a more in-depth example. But we can just say, could you teach me about Gen AI agents, something that we've been talking about continuously. Agents being able to perform actions for you and how to use it. And remember that deep search algorithm, this uses something very similar. So they'll go through the web, they'll find some resources, then you can choose which resources you want to add to this collection of information. Then you can choose to import it. I use this whenever, say, I'm trying to do research on a topic that I'm not very familiar with. It'll load everything in it finds on the web. And then you should be able to do something like looks like those two are still loading in. But as you can see, it's
Is this loading means is like searching that website and getting the information back into the context of the model?
yes, it's scraping it. So it's scraping the we search the web. After we allow all those ticks, we can remove some. But if we allow them, they'll go to that website and it will scrape the data. If that data is then scraped, then it will come off as a check. If it's not, then it usually gives you an error. There we go. That's the error. So that means they have bot detection.
Yes.
However, this is
That we can also drag our PDF.
Yep. So you could drag your PDFs. You could also put in YouTube videos. And since this is a Google product, it has the API and it can transcribe full videos for you, use them as resources for whatever you're doing. I've had my younger brother, like, he's in second year of college. So he'll post like a bunch of MIT lectures and then he'll generate a full notebook so he's able to understand the concepts and get additional material. So for this, using these resources, I'm going to say, could you give me a good explanation of what AI agents are and how to use them? It will then utilize its prior knowledge and this new context as a priority to provide me something. The main key is that it's using these new resources as the main information. Any gaps are being filled in by the model's previous information that it has. And as we could see, similar to deep search, provides you with references. And I think it's a pretty good response. I think the most useful section, apart from, the chat and maybe this long verbiage, are the mind maps, right? So should be able to generate charts and flows that you can then use to try to understand how things work. And here it is. Then you can expand this and see its resources, topics, so on. So if you do research, you're trying to create topics, see how things all work together, then the mind maps are definitely something to use. You could also choose to download them. So if you need a presentation or whatever it might be, you can. Now, if we go back, too far back, you could also use flashcards if you're studying. So it'll generate flashcards based on whatever material. That's why it's great for learning. Not that memorizing is learning, but it can at least start to provide some tools for you so you can be more familiar with whatever topic you're researching or whatever's in the notebook. And like I said, you can add anything from YouTube videos to articles to your own material, maybe class resources or policies, right? The only limitation that you have is that you can only add up to 50 resources, but I believe it's roughly half a gig of data. And if you've ever dealt with raw data, 50 gigs is actually a lot of data. Yep.
So like, I help with IT in the building, and we had a researcher who loves this. And he's limited by like getting 50 sources. He hits the 50 every day. And so we went through like the university's terms of service for like AI and sensitive data and stuff like that. And we're stuck here where he can only get 50 responses for something he's researching. We can't go to the higher level version and buy it right now. But any tips or tricks on things he's probably more familiar with it than I am, but anything I can suggest to try to get him around that outside of using a personal account.
Yeah, I know the researcher. So yeah, what he possibly needs to do is he needs to compress the data. So he could take, instead of say 3 separate PDFs, put them all in one big file and then have it like as like -1, -2, and -3. Label it correctly so he's able to still revert back to the original paper. Does that make sense? Like he needs to compile them and make up like an indexing system. So the mind maps and everything else can work. But yeah, you could use it for multiple things. I think learning is probably one of the best things. You could see we have flashcards that can be created. I've seen some people do the audio overview, so you can create podcasts out of this information. And there's actually quite a bit of AI generated podcasts now, and they're mostly using this. You could choose your own voice, you could choose someone else's voice, you could generate an artificial voice, and it sounds pretty natural. There's also quizzes. You create a report, video overview. Let's see if this doesn't take too long. Now, when it comes to these multimodal tools, as you saw, like with Nano Banana, it took a while. something as expansive as all these resources being generated into a video or maybe audio, it will take a while. So that's why I'm not going into depth, but they are available.
And listen to
Mhm.
podcast when you walk your dog.
Yeah, like you could if you want to learn about something and there's like all these resources that you want to learn from, generate your own podcast, throw it on and go for an hour walk or so. Yeah.
Every time I get called by a reporter, I usually say no because it takes time to like remember all of your research and go back and read it so you can like summarize it for the reporter. You just has to summarize it for you and then speak intelligibly to the reporter in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could even generate the audio overview and send it back to them.
And now you can train on your own voice, so it sounds exactly like you.
The process.
So yeah, I mean the possibilities are endless with this. Like I said, the video will take a while to generate, but if you're trying to learn something, this is possibly one of the best tools. You could test yourself, you could create flashcards, mind maps, you could synthesize different information, you could search for more, you can add any type of resource you want. Like I've said before, and I keep saying, it's really how creative you can be. Question?
Yeah, I was gonna add another comment. Someone I had met, who's like makes podcasts for learning and development. They say they go back and put theirs into these just to kind of get the high level overview of what they think they're getting across, so they can kind of see like, okay, here's someone else's perspective in terms of like, here are the points that you're really getting across from like an outside audience. So if you ever need it for like a not necessarily an objective third party, but like someone else to kind of like say like, oh, here's what I heard from your talk. You know, people use it for that too.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen some people use it to reference their previous work, so they're not doing something repetitive, like in something like a YouTube video tutorial or something like that. So that's another use case for it. We are running a bit behind. I want to give everyone, you know, I guess like a full perspective on all the tools available and also limitations that we haven't covered. And that's the later half of today. So are people still online? Yeah.
We've got 48 online. Someone did chat a question from online. I think it's kind of facetious, but I'll read it. With all these technologies, does the university still require students to write any research papers?
Yeah. I guess like where it's difficult is the paper that was submitted yours or is it an AI's? How much AI assistance is allowed? Because we can't completely say don't use it. They're going to find a different way, right? So a way that I thought about this was having a live document and tracking like copying and pasting, right? So if you have a live document, like for example, we had online exams, don't allow copying and pasting, and also track the words per minute that are being written. So we at least know that someone is typing it. Double dashes are sometimes indicative of AI usage. There's like different writing patterns that models have picked up, but it's very difficult. And you know that there's an argument to how much is human intelligence and how much is AI intelligence? How do you even measure this? But that's a topic like way ahead of my like expertise, right? So let's go ahead and stop sharing here and go back to the slides.